I used to scroll endlessly through YouTube trying to find the secret hacks, exercises and programs that will get me faster results until it hit me. There are no hacks, the time-tested basics work and they are called the basics for a reason. We have so much information at our disposal, and because we have information overload, we don't know what to focus on. We overcomplicate things far too easily. Building muscle is not as complicated or hard as you think. In this video I will go through some of the main topics to simplify bodybuilding, building muscle. I will run down each and every single point quickly. I will not go too much into detail. Bodybuilding can be complicated, but only if you need it to be. One of the first things you need to look at when building a program for yourself or taking a program from the internet is that you need to be somewhat in the optimal set zone of 8 to 12 sets per muscle per week. 8 to 12 sets will be the biggest bang for your buck if you go close to failure or to failure. You don't need 15 to 20 plus sets. Fuck those EMG studies. EMG studies are done on total beginners which haven't worked out a single day in their life. If you are one of them yourself, you don't need fucking 52 sets per week per muscle to grow. Total beginners can grow from everything.
You been lifting weights?
No, I don't think it. No.
And if those studies say that 15 to 20 plus sets are more optimal than 8 to 12 sets, more lower volume, it is because beginners don't know how to push themselves to failure. So because they don't go to failure and they leave 3 to 5 reps in reserve, they need to have more sets to make up for the lack of intensity. Now we know that we need 8 to 12 sets roughly per muscle per week. We can split those sets into 2 different sessions per week. For the most part, it is optimal to hit a muscle twice per week, so you can have more quality work per day and you're spreading muscle protein synthesis across the week instead of working a muscle once per week and then resting it for a whole week. Your body is not fragile. You will not break down if you train a muscle 2 times a week. Even legs. You can work more than you think. You can overtrain yourself, but for the most part, people are undertraining. When it comes to split, there are lots of options. Full body, upper lower, push-pull legs, Arnold split. Make sure to pick a split that you actually enjoy. You enjoy the structure of it. You enjoy being in the gym for maybe 3 times a week. Maybe you like being in the gym for 6 times a week. Enjoying a split and sticking to it long term will take care of 90% of the work. But you also need to know that those last 5 to 10% differences between a split can make a big difference if you are a little bit more advanced or are starting to get into the late intermediate stage. Every single split has different kinds of strengths and weaknesses, and if you take into account that some splits are 10% better in some areas than the other, that 10% compounds over a long period of time and your body might develop differently than on another split. I don't want to go into this topic deeply as it is a long fucking topic, but I've made a whole video about it which you can watch after this video right here. When it comes to the workout structure, there are lots of different ways to structure a workout, but I will keep it simple. Make sure to pick 1 to 3 compound and isolation movements for every single body part per workout. This recommendation is very rough and very basic. Every single workout split has different requirements for how many exercises you need. In a push session, you are just training your chest, shoulders and triceps. On a full body session, you are training your whole body. So take that recommendation with a grain of salt and think for yourself a little bit. I will make a separate video about this topic of how to structure every single split for itself, as I cannot condense it into a video that is meant to be basic and simple. When it comes to the exercise selection, you don't have to overcomplicate things. There are 6 basic movement patterns which will take care of 90% of your program. Horizontal push, horizontal pull, vertical push, vertical pull, a squat and a hip hinge. But don't be a minimalist if you want to maximize your muscle growth. Make sure to throw in some isolation movements. Do your curls, your push downs, extensions, your hamstring curls, your lateral raises and stuff like that. When you pick an exercise for your program and you want the exercise to be as optimal as possible, you need to consider 3 criteria. The exercise needs to be stable enough so you can push some heavy ass weights. It needs to be easily progressible, and the bonus point will be that it is stretch biased. But don't fall into the optimal trap. You need to pick movements that you enjoy and that you can stick to long term. There are very good exercises and some exercises are better than the other, but there are nothing magical. If you hate an exercise but you do it because it is optimal or somewhat better than another exercise, you hate it so much that you maybe skip it almost every single week. You're hopping around from exercise to exercise because you don't like them. You will not progress as much on that perfect exercise as someone who does a suboptimal exercise and progresses on it and gets strong as fuck on it. Every single time you change out exercise in your program, you lose the ability to progress on it, as you have to relearn the movement pattern of the new exercise that is in your program. If you change your exercise every single week, you have to relearn the exercise every single week, which means that you cannot progress on it long term. As I mentioned before, there are 6 main movement patterns. For the horizontal push, if you hate the barbell bench press, just do the double bench press. If you absolutely hate and despise Bulgarian split squats, just do lunges, which are in the same category of exercise. If you hate basic barbell squats, just do hack squats or a leg press.
You can do leg presses, but why? Why do an inferior movement?
What I wouldn't recommend is that you change those basic movement patterns of, let's say, a bench press with like a cable press. The cable press is like an optimal exercise. It could be good if it takes a slot of like an isolation exercise at the near end of your workout, but replacing a big heavy ass compound movement like the barbell bench, where you can load it up heavily with an unstable cable press, you would not get the optimal results even if the exercise is optimal. And please don't make the mistake of changing pull-ups for iliac pull-downs. These exercises can take a slot in your workout later on in your journey, but if you haven't built your base and haven't required general mass, these little pump or optimal exercises won't give you the results and the mass that heavy ass compound movements will give you. What you also need to consider is that you cannot do a single movement for the rest of your life. You need to learn when to rotate exercises and when to keep an exercise. Try to do an exercise for as long as possible to milk it maximally. There are 3 situations when you should rotate an exercise out for another. If you get overuse injuries and pains and aches in that specific exercise, if you cannot progress at all on that exercise for 3, 4, 6 weeks, but you're progressing still on other exercises for the same muscle group, but your sleep, your nutrition, everything is dialed in, it is time to rotate that exercise out. The last one is if you get absolutely bored of that exercise, you cannot see it anymore, it is okay to rotate out the exercise. But don't get exercise and workout ADHD and rotate every single exercise out every single week. As I said, you will not be able to progress on it at all. Rotating exercises is very simple. You don't have to do a completely different movement. If, let's say, you get overuse injuries and pain and aches in the medium grip bench press, you can just rotate it out for a wide grip or a close grip bench press. Maybe add a pause, change your technique a little bit, change your rep range, so you get a new stimulus. When it comes to the training itself, as a natural lifter, you should train very, very close to failure or to failure 99% of the time. No natural ever has grown from pump and fluff work as these PAD users have. You cannot keep 5 reps in reserve and still grow muscle maximally. For strength specific work, but not hypertrophy work, RP work or reps in reserve work is required and it is good, but hypertrophy work doesn't need any reps in reserve. Of course, on some lifts, going to absolute failure is not possible or is harder to do. Most of the time these are barbell compound movements like squats, deadlifts and bench press, but being somewhat in the 0 to 2 reps in reserve zone for those heavy ass exercises is still somewhat going to failure and is still optimal. You've likely heard of EMG studies which say that keeping reps in reserve is much better for muscle growth and for recovery than going to failure, and we should not give those studies any credibility, as studies are for 99% done on total beginners, and total beginners can grow from almost every single thing. If you look at more advanced natural lifters, you'll notice that they are not keeping reps in reserve for hypertrophy work. Maybe on some movements like bench, squats, deadlift, again, they do, as movement is built like that. You cannot go on absolute failure on bench press as you would die. But you cannot tell me that you could grow your biceps maximally while keeping 3 to 5 reps in reserve. You will not die if you go to failure on isolation movements or on most compound movements. It will not impede your recovery if you do a set of biceps curls to failure. And I'm not dogmatic with training to failure and with high intensity work or with Mike Mentor's philosophy, but elite natural lifters all train to failure. When giving it your all on every single exercise, on every single set, training to failure, you will notice that you will get progressive overload without even thinking about it. But despite that, you need to focus on progressively getting stronger on all your lifts. Getting stronger doesn't mean that you're automatically a powerlifter. Hypertrophy work requires you to get strong as fuck. Elite bodybuilders are some of the strongest people on planet Earth. If you take an elite bodybuilder, which is trained for hypertrophy his whole life, and you make him train for powerlifting specifically, you will blow out every single record which exists. More muscle mass means that you have more potential for strength, and more strength means that you will have more muscle mass. That doesn't mean that you should focus on 1 rep maxes, but you should focus on getting strong as fuck for reps. For example, you would be much more jacked if you ran from 60 kilos for 3 sets of 10 on the bench press to 100 kilos for 3 sets of 10. It is not possible that you have added 40 kilos to your fucking bench press for reps and that you have not gained a massive amount of size on your chesticles. And it is not about the bench press, it is not about the bro lift, it is about the principle of getting strong as fuck. You have to use this principle on every single exercise, whether it's your curls. If you go from 10 kilos for 10 reps, go to 20 kilos and you will have much bigger biceps than now. When it comes to resting between sets, I will keep it simple. For compound exercises, rest 3 to 5 minutes, and for isolation movements, 2 to 3 minutes. You need to maximize your recovery between sets and don't jump right into the exercise again after 30 to 60 seconds, as I see a lot of people do, as not letting your muscles recover diminishes your motor unit recruitment, which means that you will not be as strong as you could be if you took 2 to 5 minutes somewhat in that zone of rest. You know what I mean. As I said, for hypertrophy work, you want to get strong as fuck for reps, and you might have asked yourself, what is the best rep range for hypertrophy? That differs from exercise to exercise, from person to person, and what you enjoy most. But the hypertrophy rep range goes from 5 to 30 reps. I would suggest you to stick to 5 to 15 reps for most of the exercises. On some exercises like lateral raises, it is okay to bump it up to 20 reps, but doing like 15 plus reps on a lift that is required you to be strong in, like bench press, is not really beneficial. As long as you go close or to failure, every single rep range of, let's say, 5 reps or 15 reps yields the same results. It is very fun and exciting to blast yourself to death in a gym, but you also need to consider your recovery. You need to focus on maximizing your recovery to grow maximally in strength and size. Training breaks down muscle, but rest builds it. If you notice that you cannot recover from going to the gym 6 times per week because you have maybe a manual labor job, maybe you're studying the whole fucking day, cannot sleep enough while training 6 times per week, make sure to take a step back, focus on your recovery instead of training more. Add in some rest days, change up your split, train maybe 3 to 5 times per week and not 6 times. You might think, well, 5 times per week instead of 6 times, but that one rest day extra could change the whole game for you and your muscle growth. There are no secret hacks or gadgets to maximize your recovery. You just need to eat in a surplus for 90% of your gym journey. If you haven't built a substantial amount of muscle and you're not obese, you have no business to cut. I've been training for 5, almost 6 years, and I've cut 1 time in my fucking life. Make sure to get 7 to 9 hours of quality sleep. That means that you don't go to sleep at 2 a.m. and wake up at 10 to get your hours in, but sleep like a normal person. Don't go partying all the time and fuck up your sleep schedule. Really focus on sleep, as it is one of the most important factors for maximizing your recovery. Also learn to chill the fuck out. Don't let the stresses of life, of school, of work, of friends, of relationships ruin your recovery.
Especially the 2 or 3 months before a competition, you should keep your emotional level to a low. Falling in love takes away from your energy in a gymnasium, then obviously that's gonna hurt your progress. So therefore you have to cut this off and go your road and don't go sidetracked. Stay cold.
It is easier said than done and somewhat privileged to say that. You could imagine your body as a stress trash bin. Every single factor that induces stress onto your body and your psychology takes away from recovery, and training is one of them. So training gets thrown into it. Your friends, your work, your school, your studies. Make sure to chill the fuck out, maybe meditate, find something that lets you chill the fuck out, and it will maximize your recovery and your gains in the gym. One important factor, which no one even acknowledges, is that you should have a beautiful life, even outside of the gym. Yes, as a gym bro, if you want to maximize your growth, you need to have a fucking life that you enjoy outside of the gym.
What? Bro, what are you talking about, man?
Imagine yourself cuddling with your girlfriend, maybe walking your dog, being around in nature, having social and fun times with your friends. That in and of itself will bring down your cortisol, will bring down your stress levels. It will make you chill the fuck out and actually enjoy the present moment. By that, you will automatically maximize your recovery and grow better muscle indirectly. Those 4 things will do 99% of the job. You don't have to take cold showers, you don't have to go to saunas, you don't have to stretch your groin, your hamstrings till it fucking pops out. You don't need stupid supplements. Maybe you have health deficiencies. They're here to help. I'm not a doctor. And if someone tells you that a specific supplement could boost your recovery by 20%, they're lying to you and they just want your fucking money. But supplements, stretching, showers, saunas and that bullshit will not boost your recovery as sleeping, eating, minimizing stress and having a fun life. Do all of these things that I mentioned in the video till you become a late intermediate, and where it becomes time to hone in on the finer details of muscle building and maximizing your muscle growth potential. If you have not hit the stage of being a late intermediate, you have no fucking business to do iliac pull downs to grow your lats more, as it is a weakness. Your whole fucking body is weak and it is not a shame. I was in that position too, but don't get lost in the sauce. Don't focus on finer details if you have not built your base already. If this video helped you in some shape or form, make sure to leave a like and subscribe.